Hi everyone, and it's finally time. Outlander season 5 is here. And today I want to go over with you my reactions to the first episode of season 5, how I'm feeling about everything, and how I think things are going to be different compared to the book. I did just put up my review of The Fiery Cross. It just went up on Saturday if you want to have an overview of the book and what I will be comparing these episodes to. But I will also just rate them just based on how I feel about the content as it stands on its own, because that is how, at the end of the day, we do have to look at TV shows. But I do consider this an adaptation, and it is an adaptation that to this point has been pretty faithful. And I feel like we will start to see some big divergences start to happen. So I'm not 100% sure how I will always break these down. I'm going to see what kind of works with these first few episodes, and we'll see. But mostly this is just kind of like a spoiler review and like chat, like I've done for previously when I did full season reviews instead of doing episode by episode, which would have been just a lot to do. So the first thing that I will say is maybe how I felt about the episode as a whole, and what I would rate it out of, like, I would do it out of like a letter grade scale. So I would give this episode, I would give it an A. I maybe wouldn't give it an A plus just because there are a few things that felt kind of sticky and weren't explained very well that I hope will be later on. This gave me all the feels right from the bat. I love the new theme and intro for this year. It's an a cappella version. It almost sounds like a Christmas song, the Skyboat song, just because how it's being sang of like Catholic choral music is what it made me think of, and I adored it. I love the new pictures we see. I love the old stuff that they keep. It was so beautiful. And then the title card, Fiery Cross, and we see Brianna putting on her wedding dress. Again, I'll just talk about kind of what I liked going through it, and then we'll talk about how this changed from the book. So I loved how it started. I think the acting was a bit stilted and weird at the start of this. I don't know if it's just because whenever I'm seeing content that I haven't before, it always feels weird the first time I see it based on, watching it for the 15th time because I'm just used to it. But some of the acting and interactions seem stilted. And I want to blame that, or not blame it, but attribute that to this being like a wedding day and just they're awkward with each other because it's such a momentous occasion. I loved Jamie bringing all the traditional things to Bree of like him showing what he's doing for her, of like giving her those things which I always have seen like moms do or like bridesmaids do. And to see Jamie bring her the old new borrowed and blue and then like the sixpence for her shoe was just so cute. I loved it. It teared me up. I think Sam plays Age so well, and it's just enough of fatherly and just enough of still that like dashing Jamie that we love so much. And to see him be in the father role, it just pulverizes my heart because that's the parts of Jamie in the books that break me. His most beautiful scenes are scenes with his children or with Claire, and I think that the show gets that right so well. So then we have the actual wedding, which is really beautiful. I'll have more to say about that in the comparison part. But as for if you're just watching this, you haven't read the books, you don't know anything, I thought it was really well. I liked the people they had at the wedding. I loved having Lord John there. I will never complain when you give me more Lord John. Even if he maybe like shouldn't be there. I really liked how this one goes about setting up the threads for the rest of the season. I liked that this almost felt like a fresh start compared to if you had just watched the last episode of season 4 and then you watched this one. It's unclear what the time jump is. We just know that like Jamie has finished the big house, and now their original house is the small one that he gives to Bree and Roger, which that's what happens in the book. And it's really cool to actually see it happen because the map of what the ridge looks like in my head is like ever changing when I read the book because I'm bad at like spatially placing things. If someone tells me it takes so and so long to get from one place or the other, I don't really notice that stuff. But I really like to see that, like, okay, so this is the cabin that we've been in this whole time. And now here's the big house is like almost done being built, and it's huge and beautiful and such a work of craftsmanship for it to be built in the middle of nowhere. And that's the other thing. This doesn't totally feel like the same place we were at before, because where did this big field come from when we've had trees? And also, it wouldn't be perfectly grassed over, even if they have felled these trees to build said house, which would make sense. Things are perfectly grown over, and that would only happen a few years after you cut everything down. So how a lot of stuff looks threw me a bit too, because they're not having this wedding at River Run or out where the gathering was at, which is what happens in the book. But we have this big, beautiful space that is also right by the two houses. So I'm confused about where this space for the wedding came from and what that means. But yeah, I loved, again, like I said, I love the threads they're setting up. There's this beautiful song that happens where, so everyone's been dancing the whole time, and it's fine for everyone to go to their homes. And so Jamie and Claire have the baby for the night. They're trying to make a little love, and the baby keeps crying, which is cute for them because they never got to have that together. Jamie hasn't got to raise a child with Claire, even though they have had 2 children together. And he didn't get to raise his son, Willie, either. So them trying to make love while there's a baby was cute, as well as Roger is playing guitar and singing the song Love, Love, and it just broke me. And so there's some foreshadowing that Bree is going to have problems in the bedroom department, which of course she would. And they don't really have anything be wrong while it's happening. It's kind of the aftermath where she doesn't feel that closeness with Roger that you would hope would be there on her wedding night. But it was done so beautifully because they have Roger and Claire, not Roger and Claire. Whoa, that's not happening. Roger and Bree, Claire and Jamie, and then we have Jocasta and Murtaugh, who Murtaugh snuck there to see the wedding, and he's hiding in a shack in the woods, and Jocasta goes to meet him. And then they bring up Duncan Ennis, who does exist, which is something we were told that he would exist, but it was also speculated that Murtaugh would kind of be taking over the role of Duncan Ennis since we hadn't met him at this point, and he would have been, even in Drums of Autumn, we see Duncan, who is someone from Ardsmuir that Jamie knew. And no, we find out not. She is possibly going to be engaged to Duncan, but she's still meeting with Murtaugh on the side, and Murtaugh is encouraging her, you should do what's going to be best for you. Being in love with a fugitive, probably not the greatest thing. And I, again, continue to be frustrated by this storyline just a little bit. Also, a few little things I'll just mention. You know, I could go beat by beat for this, but it's hard. I really like that we got the scene where Jocasta messes with Roger, and it kind of forces Roger into officially claiming Jemmy as his own, which I believe, I just love that scene so much. I love when every time Roger takes charge, I'm there for it, because he gets seen as kind of a wuss sometimes, him being from the future and maybe living an easier life. And we get that in the beginning too, where Jamie's shaving him, and Roger's listing all the things that he can't do, but he can learn them, and he's strong, and he wants to be a good husband and father, and he will do that. And so I love that Jocasta kind of egging him into it, like pushes him to claim Jem, and we get to hear his full name, which you'll know we haven't heard yet. And so it's, which let me see if I can remember it without it being written down. I know it's Jeremiah Alexander Ian Mackenzie, or Fraser McKenzie, something like that. I think that's what it is. But I know that he's in there for Ian. And then it was cute because Ian is the Gaelic name for John. And Lord John really helped Bree while she was pregnant. So she was like double naming him for both Ian, who the reason Roger is back with Bree is because of Ian, and then Lord John, who really helped her. So he claims Jemmy as his own. and does the blood oath with him, which is something that happens at the end. Like, it happens at the end of the last book, and that is what convinces Bree to be with him in the books. But I like that they still had that here because that's a powerful scene. They had Jamie and Roger having their first interaction as like not hating each other. We find out that Marcelly and Fergus are pregnant again. We see that Bree is having some PTSD. John and Jamie are trying to find Bonnet, and she overhears, and then she has some flashbacks and like bad memories of him. And it's actually scenes we haven't seen before, because in the show, remember, we just hear the rape, we don't see it. And so there are some scenes of it where you're actually seeing it, which I wasn't prepared for, which was tough. And so I wonder if they'll do it in the show too, where she's still able to like be with Roger, but she's not able to find like full satisfaction out of it. And so something they need to work through is working on her being able to enjoy it and not just like be there for Roger. So yeah, so the things we get set up is that Jamie at the end gets told that he needs to hunt down Murtaugh, and if he has to raise a militia to do that, then he should. And it ends with him, you know, lighting the fiery cross, putting his kilt back on. I wrote in my notes, yes, put the damn kilt back on, because that's something that in the books he's in his kilt all the time. Like, he wears his kilt. He's not forbidden to wear it in America. But they made it kind of like a moment of him putting it on. And I understand that for like purposes of like men these days, they're like not used to wearing kilts all the time, and it's really cold where they film. So I understand, but I miss like Jamie wears that is his uniform. Like, that is what he wears. He wears his kilt. So it was great to see him in it again, him to light the cross, for him to ask Roger to be his captain, which in the book, guys, that killed me. And I just love that, like, he already knew the oath and everything because he has it memorized, and he gets asked to be his captain, and know that even though they had that talk and Jamie doesn't know if Roger Mack will be able to do what all the other men can do. He's the son of his house now, and he will bring him into battle with him. And then Fergus next, and he's like, son of my heart and my name. And it speaks to me. So everything I feel like is getting set up pretty good. I really enjoyed it as an episode. The first episode of a season, more than any other episode, I'm always able to just lose myself because I'm so happy to have my people back. And this season, we start with all of my loves in one place, except for Ian. All of my loves are together, and we're going to be starting this crazy season. So as an episode on its own, I give it an A. If you don't care about more comparisons, you can go ahead and leave. And I'm just going to list a couple of things that are a little bit concerning for me and some things I didn't like that much compared to the book. So number one would be that they're skipped over a lot of things about religion at the beginning of this. They mentioned a few of them where, like, Jamie calls... Jermaine tells Roger that Jamie called him a heretic, and Jermaine thinks that he has hair ticks because he is Presbyterian and Jamie's Catholic. And in the show, they just have a Presbyterian minister doing the marriage ceremony, but in the books, it was a huge deal because both Jocasta and Bree were going to be getting married at this gathering. And at the gathering, in the beginning of the book, you know, the whole first 100 pages of the book is all one day. And we see the perspectives of each person throughout this day. And Bree and Roger are supposed to get married, and then the priest gets arrested, but then Jamie makes sure both of his grandchildren get baptized, but then they have to send that priest away. And then they end up finding a Presbyterian minister. So Bree tells her dad, I'm going to get married by this minister, and because I care about marrying Roger, I don't care what religion we do it under, and I'm marrying him, so I'm going to be his religion anyway. And it's a really cool thing, and it sets Roger on the path that he will eventually get to, which I won't spoil. But there's just that whole first part. And so what's so cool is that Diana calls that the no good, very bad day, because all these things happen to everybody and they start out at one place in the day and all these things happen. And by the end of that day, all of our story threads for the rest of that book are started that day, including some people that we meet and stuff like that. And I feel like that's something that the TV show did do well, because that's what TV shows usually do. The beginning of a season sets up all the conflict for the rest of it. So I feel like they set up the seeds of Bree having trauma, Claire and Jamie trying to be the leaders of the Ridge, or not trying, they are. The regulators, that Jamie's going to have to raise a militia to fight his uncle, which in the book it's not, but he still has to. That's still the same in that the book, he still has to raise a militia, and he's going to have to leave to do that in just a couple of weeks in the book, once they get back to the Ridge. Here they're already on the Ridge. So I understand why they condensed all of it. I feel like they still set up the threads. Oh, and that we're looking for Bonnet. So those 4 things are all set up. And so I agree with that. Let's see if there's any big changes. I mean, obviously still the Murtaugh and Jocasta. I'm glad that they are having a Duncan Ennis, because if they changed that there was no Duncan Ennis, I don't know what you do for the story near the end of this book. I don't know if they'll do that plot at all, or the plot that's happening currently in book 6. That stuff has a lot to do with Duncan. So if they were getting rid of Duncan and not having Murtaugh replace him, I don't know what we were supposed to do with that. So I'll refrain judgment on that part. And if they really are going to kind of be cutting Murtaugh out of here soon, that'd be great. Obviously, the scenes with him still gutted me. I want him and Jocasta to work. I wish that was a thing. And when Jamie has to tell him, please be hard to find, it hurt. It hurt me so bad that it can't just work out the way that we want it to. But also they created it this way. So what can I do? So overall, adaptation wise, I would probably give it a B+, because I think I'm not as worried about 3 out of the 4 storyline, or I think they've set them up correctly. It's that 4th one, and unfortunately the biggest one, that I'm nervous about. However, I didn't get a chance to say this in my trailer reaction, but everything that was in the trailer reaction, that's all the stuff that they have edited so far. So my hope is that, like with the book, the regulators conflict is the first half of the book. And granted, I think, and hopefully the stuff they put in the trailers was all from the first half of the season, since even though they have everything filmed, they don't have everything edited yet. So usually the clips from the trailers will be clips from the first half, because the regulators conflict is only a problem in the first half of that book. And then there's kind of a quiet period before the revolution starts, not for a while later. So my hope is that the plots that are started that are really a main part of this story, the family stuff, will be what carries through to the end. So that's what I hope for anyway. So anyway, tell me what you thought of this episode. I really, really enjoyed it. I've seen it twice. I can't wait for the next one. I can't wait for this season to get rolling. There's so many juicy things. There's new people we were meeting in this episode. I told you, this book 5 was the book of how many new people can we introduce you to, and you'll be able to keep them straight, because you meet so many new people in book 5, and a lot of them are important. In this episode, we did meet Josiah Beardsley, who Claire will be trying to take his tonsils out, and he actually has a twin brother, Hezia and Josiah, I think. I'm not sure, but we got to meet them, and I'm excited. So yeah, well, I'll go ahead and close this off here. Let me know what you thought of the episode, and if you have anything to say, if you've read the book as well, what did you think of some of of how they're changing it and where it's going to go? But yeah, I'm really excited for more of these. I promise to be a little more organized next time. I had to watch this at at a cabin retreat, and my notes got left in my friend's car, and I didn't want to wait to film this because I was already late. But next time I will have things broken down a little more concisely. But Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want more Outlander content. I have a whole Outlander playlist where I've reviewed all the books through book 5 and all the seasons of TV. So if Outlander is something you're interested in, please check it out. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye.